Hello and welcome to Australia in Space TV. My name is Chris Cubbage. I'm the editor with My Security Media. Today we're joined by Leanne Cunnold. She's with AROSE, the Chief Executive Officer. We're going to be diving into remote operations and the critical component of space activity and missions. And their sort of capability statement in here is unifying Australia's world-leading capability based in Perth, Western Australia. Leanne, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Now, AROSE, many in the industry have heard of this, the Australian Remote Operations Space and Earth Consortium. You've got a range of members and advisory boards and the like. So it's an interesting business model. And AROSE, maybe just outline what your key sort of capability statements are and your key business models.
Great, no problem. Well, yeah, maybe first of all, let me start off with how AROSE was founded, because it's a really inspiring story. So AROSE was founded by a former astronaut, Pamela Melroy, and she had 40 days in space. And Pamela Melroy is now the Deputy Administrator of NASA. And then the second person was Russ Potapinski, who was the head of robotics at Woodside. And so what they saw was that Australia has this advanced capability in remote operations, which is, and it's really been born out of the mining sector. And this is the ability for small teams to manage multiple assets day in, day out in a high risk, harsh and dynamically changing environment. And so when you look at this, for example, you know, in the mining companies, you might have one person managing 14 autonomous trucks, one person managing, 6 drills. So the robot to human ratio is very high. And of course, NASA has mission control centers, as we all know, but it's typically a larger team managing fewer assets. So they saw this as the opportunity for Australia to transfer this capability for space applications, and the benefit from the learnings there to be brought back to optimise terrestrial applications.
And I take it, as you say, sort of connections to NASA, but Western Australia and the remote operations have been going for some time. They've been building that up. So, and they were definitely sort of world-class and world-leading capability that a lot we were even I was speaking to people in the US, everyone was watching what was happening because of the distances, the harsh environments, and the like, and the advanced technology that they were using. So there was a lot of learning outcomes. What's the sort of the membership base now, and what your functions are? What are you actually doing sort of day to day as a member group, and the connections to space now?
Sure. Yeah, so in terms of our members, we have 14 members, and we have 10 from industry, 4 from research, and then we also have 3 mining sponsors, and we're supported by the Western Australian government. So, we are industry-led non-for-profit consortium, and then the way that we work is we act as an honest broker. So companies come to us with their big challenges that they can't solve via a traditional approach. We assemble the right expertise from our consortium, and which brings a diversity of thought. We put that with a new system engineering approach, which is, from the space industry, and plus technology that's already available. So it's these 3 elements that then help us to deliver innovative solutions that transform business outcomes. So when you think of space, what's really critical about this, you're making for the barely possible. Like what they're doing, you're solving problems that have never been solved before. And the way of the space system engineering approach is that decouples decisions from your the heritage, what's done before, and the familiarity biases. So it's not a evolution or an optimization of a process. It's a total revolution.
It's a new one, yeah, right.
Yeah, really solving for the problem at hand. So that is AROSE's operating model. So you can either join and become a member, or you can just say, look, we would like to engage AROSE on a project basis. So either way is fine. And then we also do have collaborations. So we have been We've got some STEM collaborations here in Western Australia with Joseph Banks, who are building their own remote operations centre for high school students. And they'll be building both, you know, an environment, a space environment, as well as a earth environment, and core learning. And that's looking at it, you know, a different way to deliver the curriculum, where you look at multiple disciplines working together to deliver on an outcome. And then last but not least is we have, you know, our relationship with the Australian Space Agency, where AROSE was one of the key contributors to their robotics and automation roadmap.
Nice. Where do you kind of fit in the Australian industry and sort of the key sort of programs that you are locked into? I mean, you did talk about the Space Agency, and obviously the remote operations roadmap, as you mentioned, is a key aspect of that. Things like Trailblazer and others that might be coming through. What's your involvement across the sector?
Yeah, so I think if you look at it, robotics and automation, so when we talk about remote operations, we're not just talking about a remote operations center.
Yep.
It's looking at, you know, what are the sensors, what are the end effectors, the robotics that actually carry out the work, what's the communications, and then the remote operations center is one part of that. So it's really an four functions which really make up remote operations. And plus you have all your, you know, supporting infrastructure, your processes, your people, etc. So I think it's important that we point out that it's, you know, what the ecosystem encompasses. So yes, we do a combination of, you know, space-focused projects as well as terrestrial. And one of the key ones that we've just delivered is a demonstrator feasibility grant under the Moon to Mars mission. And that was looking at, does Australia have the capabilities to deliver a lunar rover for foundational services? So what we did was we received a grant from the Australian Space Agency, coupled with sponsorship from mining companies, MDEX, South 32 and Oz Minerals. And basically, you know, we looked right across the Australian landscape to understand which companies have those capabilities or are developing those capabilities. So at the end of the study, what we found out is that, you know, over 60 companies that we spoke with, is that, you know, Australia either has the capability now or is developing the capability in the future to be able to put a lunar rover, to design, build and operate a lunar rover from Australia. And of course, yes, Trailblazer, everyone is eagerly awaiting the outcome of that. But, you know, it's no surprise that AROSE has put in a bid for stage one.
Now, I suppose one of the key aspects is world-leading remote operations capability. Has it drawn out any other sort of competitors within the global sector, the space sector I'm referring to, or do you really see what has been happening in Western Australia as world-leading, like as a benchmark to what companies have been doing?
Yeah, look, for all indications from what we have been, you know, hearing and the number of inquiries that we have had from overseas or nationally, is that Australia really is world leading in remote operations, and that's really been drawn from the mining industry. And when you think about it, you know, mining has deployed huge amounts of technology and innovation to, you know, for safety, but also for productivity. And we have the most modern mines in the world. So yes, Australia is definitely seen as having that leading capability in remote operations.
What's some of your key call to actions? You've got advisory boards, but you're not just limiting yourself to Western Australia or Australia. But yeah, what's your call to action to anyone listening to this around the world? You mentioned that there is collaboration opportunities. What
Yeah.
would they do to kind of reach out, or some of the key opportunities that you would provide in addition to membership?
Yeah, so it's really, again, if you think you have a capability that's in the, you know, again, in the lens of remote operations, that could add value to the consortium. I mean, we're very lucky. At the end of the day, AROSE exists for its members. So, you know, we're very fortunate to have you know, members with deep capabilities. So it's, you know, if you're interested in becoming a member, reach out to us, or if you've got a project or a big challenge that you're trying to solve, and you know, we'll solve it in a different way to achieve the outcome, then we'd love to hear from you. Like, for example, we have the Resources Advisory Board, and you know, when you look at mining, the commonality between modern resources and the space business cannot be underestimated. Both require a focus on a smaller footprint, delivery of zero carbon emission operations, reliance on substantial amounts of data to support decision making. And both of them operate in extreme high risk in environments. For example, you know, you're dealing with dust, you're dealing with extreme temperatures, and you need to work in a manner that reduces the risk for employees, communities, and industries. So the Resource Advisory Board is there to accelerate the space tech transfer around the big challenge that they need to solve for. And then, you know, the learnings from that can be transferred for future space missions or to other industries on Earth. So we're in the middle of looking at those challenges, so stay tuned for more on that. So if you've got a big challenge that you're looking to solve with a different approach and a diversity of thought, then yeah, please reach out to us.
Well, wonderful. We'll let the audience wanting more. It's arose.org.au. We'll put the link in the show notes. Leanne Cunnold, the CEO with AROSE, thank you very much for joining us on Australia in Space TV.
Thank you, Chris. It was a pleasure to be here.